Um, Hello. I understand. I've been gone for over 2 months, somewhere around 2 months. I don't really know what to say. The main reason that I was gone was school, and also I was writing scripts for most of my stories because I really couldn't put together a comprehensible story without a script. But over the time that I've been in school, I've learned a bit more on how to put it together. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do here. Now, some people might understand what this is. This is Beacon Academy from the show Ruby, and it's like one of my favorite shows ever. So I'm going to be doing a what if centered around Ruby. Yes, centered around Ruby. So it's not going to be a normal what if. Most of the characters from Naruto won't even be in here. I don't even think one of them will. But I might make a decision down the line to add someone. But yeah. So, let me think. Yeah. So Naruto is going to be a huntsman in training. He's going to be age 17. That's how old you have to be to get into Beacon. Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. So we start off by zooming into a airship that just landed at a cliff, sort of. A kid in a yellow jumpsuit, and a kid in an orange jumpsuit with yellow hair gets off the ship with a sort of katana sheath, with a sheath for a katana, a sheath for a long sword, and a sheath on his back for a heavy sword. He gets off and screams, "I finally made it." As for the past, for the past like five, for the past 10, 9 to 10 years of his life, he's been training forever, training to get. He's been training. Yeah, he's been training to become a huntsman. Yes, He's been trying to become a huntsman. As his father and his mother were huntsmen and huntresses. At age 7, they both went out for missions and never returned. Due to this, he was put into the care of his uncle. His uncle his uncle Jay was a huntsman as well, so he wasn't really ever around. But he was a caring uncle, and he was a very strong one at that. He trained Naruto for a while, until around the age of 13. At 13, he started Signal Academy, and over the time, he trained a lot. He became At age 15, he was put into a program called the Junior Huntsman Association. In this for 2 years straight, you shadow a professional huntsman. You shadow a professional huntsman. So for 2 years, up to the age of 17, he shadowed a professional huntsman around Remnant. Over this, he was training with his 3 swords: a katana named Che, his longsword Ko, and his big sword So. Over this he also forged his weapons up. His katana has a mode where it puts a sort of black coating around it. A sort of black. So think of his sword. When he presses a red button on his katana handle, a sort of coating of black metal goes around his katana. For his longsword, he has a special compartment in the blade for dust. He has four different compartments for the for lightning, fire, earth, and ice dust, all shipped in from the Shini Dust Company. And for his big sword, the big sword is made out of a material that you can only get from a island called Kane, off the coast of Vale. The material is strong enough to cut through entire blocks of cement. So, and over those 2 years, Naruto gained good intelligence, very good fighting experience, and a lot of hand-to-hand combat training. So we go back to Naruto. He steps off and he sees four people. He sees a girl with pink hair, and a hammer on her back, a girl in a red hood, a girl in a red hood with a sort of collapsed something on her back, a girl with yellow hair, and then a man with blonde hair. He doesn't pay much attention to them, but he does go up to the man with blonde hair, as they sort of have the same hair color. Yeah, he says, "Hello, what's your name?" The kid was just previously throwing up, so he says, "My name's John Ark." Says, interesting name. Then says, "So, is that so nice sword right there? Is that a collapsible shield as well?" Jean then puts up his shield and gets his sword and says, "Yeah, how did you know?" Then says, "Oh, I guess I could just tell." Naruto's a very good weapon expert. He can pretty much notice anything about a weapon. Naruto, at first glance of most weapons, he can tell what they are used for. The only one, though, is the girl's collapsible scythe. This is Ruby, by the way, Ruby Rose. He can tell that it's something. He can tell that it's collapsible, and he can tell that it's a rifle, but he can't tell because he knows that it's something else. He doesn't know that it's a collapsible scythe, by the way. So Naruto then says, "So, did you make it yourself?" He then says, "No, I got it from my family. It's sort of a hand-me-down." Naruto then says, "Well, I can tell that your family has some really, really good taste in weaponry. If you ever need help modifying it, I can teach you some stuff." Jean then smiles and says, "Yeah, that'd be good." Jean and Naruto then start walking up to the entrance of Beacon. As they're talking, Naruto's learning more about Jean. As Naruto's doing this, he senses someone. Now, Naruto has this innate ability of sensory. It's not really known why, but he can just somehow sense people that have strong auras. It's not his aura in particular that's doing this. His mind is just fixated on it. He looks behind him and he sees a man in a traditional Chinese-Japanese looking clothing with black hair and a green tie on. He then says to Jean, "Can you wait right here for a second?" He then goes up to the man and says, "What's your name?" Then looks down and says, "Lai Ren." As Ren's thinking, he says, "I feel like I've seen this kid somewhere." Naruto then looks up to him and says, "You look familiar." Ren then says, "Yeah, I feel like I've seen you somewhere." The girl with the pink hair and a hammer on her back goes up to Ren and Naruto and says, "Ah, Ren, is this a friend?" Ren then says, "No, Nora, it just feels like I've seen this kid somewhere before." Naruto then says, "I'm not a kid. We're like the same age." Ren then says, "How old are you?" Naruto then says, "I'm 17. How old are you?" Says, "Oh, 17 as well." Naruto then says, "Well, I can tell you're strong and trained good, and you're trained good. What's your name?" As he looks at the girl with pink hair. She says, "Ah, Nora Valkyrie." And says, Naruto says, "So I can tell that you're strong. Seems you can lift well over 500 pounds." Naruto then nods. Naruto then says, "I can sense that there's someone else very strong around here." Ren then says, "Yes, someone very, very strong." Naruto then breaks away from Nora and Rin and goes back to Jean. Jean says, "What was that about? Old friend of yours?" Naruto says, no, not particularly. Just thought I knew him." Naruto and Jean then go into the study to the actual hall. When Jean and Naruto get in, they see a girl in a white dress with white hair yelling at the girl with the red hood. Naruto then looks at the girl in the red hood and says, "Jean, could you wait here? I need to go talk to that girl." Naruto then goes over to the girl and says, "Hello, what's your name?" Ruby then looks up and says, I'm Ruby Rose. What's your name?" Says, "Oh, Naruto Uzumaki." He then looks at her weapon and says, "So, that rifle on your back, what's it about?" Ruby then takes it off and shows that it's a collapsible scythe. Naruto says, "I can see almost every single weapon I've ever seen. I could tell exactly what it was. Your weapon was the only one that I couldn't notice. You have some good craftsmanship. So, your name's Ruby Rose. Are you in any way related to Summer Rose?" Ruby then looks down and says, "Yeah, that's my mom." Naruto says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." And says, "Oh, no problem." He then looks up and sees the girl with the yellow hair and says, What's your name?" He says, "Yang Xiaolong." Says, "Are you in any way related to Tai Ling Xiaolong?" And says, "Yeah, that's her dad." So he then says, "Our. So you're sisters." Yang then says, "Yeah, me and Ruby are sisters." He says, I see. Well, you seem very powerful. I'll be going back to look. I'll be going back." He then goes back over to Jean and says, "Those girls over there." As he points at Ruby and Yang, Jean says, "What about them?" He says, "They're very interesting." Naruto then senses someone. Senses someone. He senses a man it feels like he's double. He looks up and sees a man. The man gets up to a mic and says, Students, I am Professor Osman. You are here today because you are some of the top elite. You've come to Beacon Academy to train as huntsmen and huntresses. I'll cut this short, as I understand that you must want to go around the school and explore it. Today, you'll be able to do pretty much anything. Classes start tomorrow, and your first mission is in a month. Understand this. You are here because you are the strongest. You passed a rigorous training. You passed a rigorous test. Don't throw it away. You are all very powerful." He then says, "You're dismissed." Naruto is sort of confused as he notices that the man was almost as if he was some sort of... Naruto can't really put his finger on it, as he doesn't really understand or know the words to even describe him. Naruto can sense almost like two humans coming off of him. Naruto then takes John to the. Naruto then walks with Jean, and says, "So, you want to go to the training hall?" Jean says, will you pull me there anyways if I don't come with you?" He then says, how'd you read my mind? One thing that Naruto loves is training. He would spend years training if he could. He'll drag anyone to training if he knows that they can train at his level. Jean then says, "So, what are we training? What are we training for? Can't we just explore the school and take it easy?" Naruto then shakes his head and says, "Nah, I already know the layouts of the school. I know where everything is. Let's just train." As they get to the training ground, they are amazed at how ginormous and how elaborate it is. Naruto then goes for a test on the sword training. He takes out his katana and puts it into the black metal mode. He goes in for goes in for a slice and cuts through a tree. Says, interesting. The tree then goes back and he says, wait. The tree then it's sort of like a hologram. So the hologram part comes back and says, this isn't a real tree. He then goes to punch it, but as he punches it, he notices that it feels like a real tree. It has the same consistency and durability as a real tree. Naruto says, "Wow, I guess it is state of the art." Naruto then looks back at Jean and says, "So, I understand that you don't really, or how can I say this? You don't really have the guts. Well, not guts, more like skill to be here." Jean then says, Naruto says, as I thought. Now, how about this? I'll train you." Naruto then says, "Get into this stance." He brings out his long sword, and he gets into a normal sword fighting stance. Naruto then says, "There's two things that you must practice: your thrusting and your slicing. Once you master your thrusting and slicing, you can go to your hacking and or your drop cutting." So, for the next couple hours, they train. Now, Naruto puts Jean through a very, very intense training regimen. He does this for a couple hours until it's around 1 a.m. They then head to bed and they get ready for classes in the morning. They go to their first couple classes, and Naruto gets sort of pulled aside by Miss Goodwitch, one of the professors there at Beacon. Miss Goodwitch says to Naruto, "You're Naruto Uzumaki, correct?" And says, yes. Why?" Jin says, "Well, we noticed something about you. During the entrance exam, you almost did too well on it. You passed it with flying colors, and you did better than anyone. But the thing that sort of is confusing us, you only trained at Signal Academy for 2 years. We have no records of you past 2 years ago." Naruto thinks to himself, that makes sense. I was put into the Junior Huntsman Training Association after I left Signal for summer break. So I'm guessing I got taken out of the school program. Naruto says, "Well, you see." Then Goodwitch continues and says, "And also the scores and the sort of grades that you had at Signal, they weren't bad, but they weren't the best either. Can you explain?" Naruto says, "Oh, yes. So, pretty much, you see, when I was 15 years old, I left Signal for my summer break, and I was put into this program called the Junior Hunter Training Association. Now, I didn't know, but apparently, I most likely got de-enrolled in Signal. So for the past 2 years, I've been training with a huntsman. It was sort of like, yeah, it was training pretty much. We went on mini missions. She then says, who is this huntsman? He then says, Crow Bronwyn. Glenda then closes her eyes and just says, of course it's him. Naruto says, something wrong? Glenda then says, nothing's wrong. It makes sense. It makes sense now. Well, you're free to do it. You're free to do what you please. Don't forget, we'll be doing the team assignment tomorrow. Naruto then nods his head and says, okay. So Naruto goes find John, and they train until 1 o'clock in the morning again. And John as he goes to bed says that Naruto is pretty interesting. Pretty sure I've made more progress in the past year. I'm pretty sure I've made more progress in these past 2 days than I have in the past year. As Naruto is an expert swordsman, he's an expert swordsman. He could probably take down most like relatively strong huntsmen with like a normal dagger. Yeah. Sorry, I needed to go to the bathroom. So yeah, Jean is pretty much thinking, I've got more training done in the past 2 days than I have in my entire lifetime. So Naruto can take down most swordsmen, like most huntsmen in general that are like relatively strong with a simple dagger. Yeah. So we skip to the next day, and we skip to when they're picking when they're getting their teams assigned. Osmond says, today we'll be assigning teams. The way that these will be picked, you'll be going to a sort of abandoned temple that has relics. So we'll be dropping you off into the Emerald Forest. This forest is very dangerous. I don't care what you have to do. We can always regrow the trees. You can destroy as many trees as you want. Just please don't die. He then says, we'll be dropping you off. The first person you see will be your partner for the rest of your life here at Beacon. Jean then says, okay. Naruto then looks at Jean and says, don't worry, you can do this. Naruto, thinking to himself, says, who do I want? He then looks at all the people and says, I don't know. He then looks at this girl. She has red hair with very, very gladiator-style armor. Says, she looks relatively interesting. She also looks very strong, I can tell. That spear gun sword with a shield. She looks interesting. Maybe. Naruto looks at Jean and says, okay, remember the landing strategy. Jean then nods his head and says, I got this. Jean then gets into his position. He collapses his shield and puts his sword in it, sheathing it. He then gets in a position. He puts his right leg in front of him, left leg behind him, and looks like he's ready to pounce. Naruto then gets flung off into the distance of the Emerald Forest. Naruto, Naruto, as this is happening, is thinking, okay. He then gets to the point of almost touching the Emerald Forest. As he does, he activates his semblance. Naruto's semblance is the ability to control his aura in a sort of energy manipulation way. Nothing too crazy. All he can really do is create small attacks or enhance himself with his aura. So he puts almost all of his aura on his arm, and he stops himself as soon as he hits the top of the tree. He then stands on top of the tree and looks. As he does, he sees a girl falling out of the sky. He says, Red Hood. And he's talking about Ruby. He blitzes over there and he catches her. He catches her in his arms and says, looks like we're teammates. Here. Shin says, oh, okay. They didn't get down, and Naruto says, so, what do you want to do? Naruto says, we came in from the south, so we should really be going that way, as he points in front of them. But Ruby then says, okay. Naruto then says, but we could go. He then closes his eyes and senses around. He senses almost like an entire pack of Ursas and Beowulfs to the east. Says he then points to the east and says we could go that way to find some more to find some Grimm. Ruby then looks at him and smiles and says, you really do know me. And then blast off in the east, in the east direction. We go over to Jean. Jean lands in a tree. Jean landed in a tree and looks around. As he looks around, he sees the girl with the red hair. The girl sees him and says, so we're partners, huh? Jean then says, guess so. He then goes over to a tree and says, my name is Jean Arc. Who are you? Says, Pierre Nikos. Says, interesting name. You look pretty strong. Let's get down. We need to go find our pieces. Yes. So, yeah. We go back to Naruto and Ruby. Naruto's sitting in a tree as Ruby's hacking and slashing through as many Grimm as possible. She then looks up to Naruto and says, why aren't you having any fun? Naruto says, I don't really want to hurt anyone. Shin says, hurt anyone? There's only Grimm here. Says, yeah, Grimm may have no soul, but they're still animals in a sense. Says, your loss. She then keeps going around and slicing Grimm after Grimm. Naruto then says, to hell with it. And jumps down and says, Ruby, give me some of these. Ruby then uses her semblance to go back and says, okay, let's see what you got. Naruto with his semblance can create one extra limb, be it one extra hand, an extra arm, an extra leg. He creates an extra arm to get his longsword. He then gets his katana, and he gets his heavy sword. He then goes in. He starts just completely destroying as many Grimm as possible. Pretty much at this point, the Grimm are. It seems like it literally looks like a giant stepping on top of plushed animals. After a couple minutes, every single Grimm in the area is done. He then goes back to Ruby and says, "Yeah, that was relatively fun." He then puts the swords back in their sheaths and says, "So, you want to head over and get our relics?" Nods her head and says, "Let's go." They then dash over to the place. When they get there, they see a couple other teams. By the way, Weiss isn't in this one. By the way, Weiss isn't here. Weiss is being taken. Weiss's spot is being taken over by Naruto. They see Yang and a girl with. They see Yang and a girl with black hair. Naruto looks at this girl and says, "She's a faunist, huh?" Naruto over his time has met many faunists, most of them relatively nice people. He has met members of the White Fang, though. Yeah, he's met members of the White Fang. He once even came face to face with Adam Torres himself. He came out, though. Did have a couple bruises, but he was fine. Naruto goes up to Yang and the girl and says, "What's your name?" As he looks at Blake. Says, "Name's Blake." Then says, "So, Blake, tell me a bit about yourself," as he looks up at her bow. She notices this and says, no one's gonna make fun of you, correct?" Yang is sort of confused and says, "What is he talking about?" Says, Naruto sighs and says, "Don't worry about it." Naruto then senses something. Ren says, "What's that?" Naruto says, "So, you sense it as well." Yeah, he goes next to Ren and says, "So, it's that way." He points in a direction as he sees Jean comes flying in. He jumps up and gets Jean, lands on the ground, and puts him on his feet and says, "What's happening?" Says, "Something happened. I don't know where Pear is." As he says this, Pear comes flying in. She rolls and gets up and says, "That's a very interesting. It's a very, very interesting Grim." As she says this, a ginormous scorpion-like creature comes in from the forest. Naruto says, "All right." He then gets his katana out. And says, "Everyone, go!" As he says this, everyone jumps forward. They're going hit for hit on this. They're going hit for hit on this scorpion-like creature, but it looks like nothing's happening. Naruto then says, "I got an idea." Naruto then puts his katana in its sheath and gets out his giant sword. He then calls over Ruby. He calls over Ruby and Rin. Says, "You two, we're gonna do something." Then whispers in both their ear, and they both nod their head. Ren jumps up. Ren jumps forward and stabs both of his pistols into a scorpion's eyes. Ruby jumps up and just starts putting rounds downrange into this scorpion's eye, into the scorpion's head. He then screams out, Nora, hit its stinger." Nora then smiles and says, "With pleasure." She then uses her grenade launcher to launch herself forward, and and as soon as she's about a couple centimeters away from the scorpion stinger, she destroys it, almost like a balloon popping with how much venom came out. At this point, so he then says, Jean. Blake, Yang. They come over and he says, Jean, you're going to launch Blake up with your shield. Yang, you're going to launch Blake up with your shield. Blake, tie your sword around tie your pistol around Yang. You two are going to jump up. You're going to throw her into the sky at that point. Then Yang, you're going to blast yourself down. As soon as you're at the point, just as soon as you're as soon, and I mean as soon as you're at that point, you're going to just hit the scorpion's head with as much force as possible. As he says this, Jean then blasts Blake into the air. She then throws Yang in. Then Yang blasts herself down. Yang, at the last possible second, blasts a hit into the scorpion's head. He then says, "Everyone back!" Everyone comes back. The scorpion's not dead. The scorpion's not dead yet, but it's definitely near there. It says, "Pyrrha, use your polarity to launch me. Use your polarity on your shield and Jean's shield. Launch me forward with as much momentum as possible. Then use your polarity to put the force of my giant sword to make it as forceful as possible." In the other head, Naruto then plants his feet on. Naruto then jumps up. Jean and Pyrrha put their shield. He then gets launched off at incredible speeds. Naruto then flips forward and gets ready to slice. As he does this, Pyrrha puts the polarity of his sword up. At this point, Naruto's sword is almost like a giant, like, how would I describe this? It's almost as if the creature's about to get hit with something that is razor sharp and has as much force behind it as a wrecking ball. Naruto slices, and as he does, the entire scorpion gets split in two. Naruto lands and says, that was relatively fun. He then heads back to them and says, "So, you guys ready?" Naruto goes up and Naruto and the rest of them go up to get their pieces. They get their pieces and starts head back as they hear something. It's almost as if they hear a dragon's roar. By the way, this isn't in the actual Ruby. They hear like a dragon's roar. Something like this, but I'm not using the same thing. Naruto and Ren look back as they sense something, almost as if they sense like a mountain. It's almost as if they're sensing a mountain with bloodlust and hatred. Naruto jumps forward. Naruto and Ren just start blitzing after it. He then shouts, "Everyone, now!" Everyone follows them. After about 10 minutes of running, they get to a canyon with some weird structures on it. Naruto senses the person, like the creature, in the canyon. He then says, "Nora, give me one of your bombs." Nora then says, "What?" "Give me one of your bombs," Naruto says. Naruto says again, if you won't give me one, can you at least fire some into the canyon?" She fires them into the canyon. After about 30 seconds, they explode. And Naruto and Rin say, "Get back now!" As they say this, a ginormous creature with ginormous wings comes up. The wings then say, Naruto then says, "Okay, guys, this is going to be a hard one, but we're going to do this." Naruto then activates his semblance, making a third arm for his longsword. He gets his katana and his giant sword. Then says, "Launch me." Then says, "Pyrrha, same thing again." Pyrrha and Jean launch him forward. He then goes in for a slash, but is barely off. He then lands again. He then lands on the other side of the canyon and says, "Everyone, put as much damage on that thing as possible. I have an idea." As he says this, everyone starts just adding, just like putting down range as much damage as possible. Jean really can't do anything as he doesn't have a ranged weapon, but he says, "I got an idea." He then says, "Pierre, launch me forward." Jean then jumps onto his shield, and she just propels him at unthinkable speeds. She uses her polarity to launch him even farther, controlling his sword, his weapon, and his armor. As he then uses all this momentum and slams his shield into the dragon's like stomach. As he does this, he slams into the dragon's stomach. The dragon then somewhat he doesn't really nothing. He doesn't seem like he's hurt, but the dragon felt this. He definitely felt this. Jean then fell onto the other side of the canyon with Naruto. Naruto says, "Oh, this is perfect." Naruto then looks at Jean and said, "Okay, first of all, whenever we get back to the beacon, I'm definitely modifying your weapon to have at least some sort of ranged weapon." Jean then nods and says, "Yeah, that would be relatively good." Naruto doesn't really need range weapons, as he's relatively agile, and if he wanted to, he could jump the canyon. It's just he doesn't really want to do that right now. Naruto then looks at Jean and says, "Jean, can you throw your shield with me on it?" Says, "What? What?" Says, "As I said, throw me with your shield on it, with me on your shield." Says, "Why?" Says, "Well, says, well, it's hard to explain. Just do it." Says, "Okay, can you at least give me the rundown?" Says, "Well, I'm going to use your shield. I'm going to use your shield as a sort of foothold to jump up and slice that dragon." Says, "What? What? You're gonna lose my shield inside the canyon." Says, "No, it won't." Pira shouts, "Pira! When you see it, use your polarity and get Jean's shield." Pira then shouts back, "Understood." Jean then just shakes his head and says, "Okay." Naruto then jumps on top of Jean's shield. Jean uses as much strength as possible to throw him. As he does, Jean actually gets relatively far. Naruto then jumps off of the shield. He throws as he does, he jumps off of Jean's shield. Pyrrha then uses her polarity to get Jean's shield. Naruto then puts his longsword back in its sheath and uses his energy manipulation to create to put a lot of energy into his arms. He then slams his big sword and his katana into the dragon's body. The dragon then jumps up. The dragon jumps and starts flying around in pain as he felt this. Naruto then uses his swords as sort of ice picks to climb up the dragon's body. He gets to the mid part and jumps on the wings. He then says, "Well, time to end this." He then puts his katana away and slams his big sword into the dragon's body. He then runs. At incredible speeds to just sort of create. He's sort of creating a Saw-like effect. one. He's going back and forth, cutting through the body. He's at the final cut. He says, "Let's make this a bit more flashy." Naruto then jumps up and uses a special attack. He powers energy into his sword, and slashes down. It creates a sort of giant slash. It cuts the dragon in half. He lands on the dragon's wings. And he lands on the dragon's upper half and jump off onto the side of the canyon that John's on. He lands and says, "All right, John, how do you think we're gonna get back here?" John says, "Idea," and shouts, "Pyrrha, throw me my shield. Throw me my shield." She then throws his shield. John gets it and he says, "I have an idea." He then goes back and cuts down some trees. Says, "Okay, so if my idea is correct, if I can do this, this will be perfect." He then says, "Naruto, give me your big sword." Naruto then hands him his big sword. He tapes the big sword to his shield, and he starts spinning it. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" Naruto says this. It says, "Don't." It says, "Don't worry." It says, he shouts, "Pyrrha, use your polarity. Use your polarity to make this spin faster." She then does this. It's almost as if it's spinning. It's spinning very fast. He then attaches a rope he made out of vines that he got from the trees he cut down. It says, "Hold on to this." Then holds on. Jean then jumps off. Naruto says, "What the hell are you doing?" But as it is, Naruto's sword on top of his shield makes a relatively good propeller, actually. So he lands back onto the he lands back on he lands back onto the other side. Pierce Pierce says, "That was a very dumb move, John." Says, "Sorry about that." Says, "Oh, don't worry about it. It was dumb, yes, but did it work? Perfect. It worked perfectly." Naruto then says, "All right, guys, let's head back." And that will end this part of What If Naruto Was in Ruby.